All right, so you're welcome, and America, for the most entertaining game of the weekend by far. Raiders pull this one out. This is the Tape Don't Lie crew, joined by Matt Holder. We are all contributors at Silver and Black Pride. I am BD Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at BD Williams18. My co-host Marcus Johnson at the Mark John NFL, and Matt Holder at M Holder at 95. Sorry, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
95.
Once we start doing this, it's gonna roll off the tongue for me quicker. Okay, I got to get in the groove of it. So
what you're saying is, I was gonna say what you're saying is you got off to a little shaky start. A little.
Okay, right. I got off to a little shaky start, just like the Raiders did on offense.
Yes, they did.
It was an interesting game plan. Me and Marcus, we were DMing each other in the beginning of the game. We're like, what is going on with all the four verts and just throwing fades every other play here, So Marcus, talk to us. What the hell was happening with the offense in the first quarter?
The offense was frustrating in the first quarter. I mean, they had the right idea because I think targeting tight ends against the Ravens is the right idea. It's just how they did it. Like, why are you running wheel routes with Waller? I mean, they're doing the out and ups, they're getting him out on the outside so they have a better chance to bracket him, and so it was the right idea for me, but when they started using him better later on, that was the idea I wanted from the jump, just kind of hit him on some underneath things, quick, keep him in line, do some quick hitches, hit the choice routes, and when they were able to hit choice routes, they were able to move the football, so once they started hitting those, you saw them start moving the football and get a little bit of a groove, and it was a totally different game from that point on. So I think they just got too, I don't know if they thought they're going to come out and they're just going to put on a show. I feel like that's what they tried to do. I feel like they tried to come out and put on a show. So I think Carr in the first half, his average depth of target was 12. I mean, we ever seen Carr throw the ball down the field like that?
Anyone, that's a huge average depth of target.
Yeah,
I mean, there must have been some kind of orchestrated effort, get these safeties out of the box because they're going to struggle running the ball. And then Denzel Good goes down, and it's like, okay, this is basically everyone besides Colton Miller is brand new on this offensive line. They're going to struggle running the ball. So maybe it was just trying to get safeties out of the box. But even still, until the last play of the game, they were crowding the box, sending cover zeros and everything like that. I still don't understand after Kansas City why anyone decides, Kansas City and New York Jets last year, why do teams still insist on cover zero blitzing Derek Carr? We've seen this happen time and time again. So that's interesting. Going over here to Matt on defense, as a former defensive lineman, okay, can you talk to us about the pass rush? It seemed like from the TV copy, exciting for Raider Nation.
I mean, it was honestly kind of surprising to me because I think I talked about this in a lot last week of I thought the Raiders were going to go with a more conservative pass rush approach, right? And play Cleveland Farrell more, which, I mean, now I look stupid, right? Where they're going to try and constrain the pocket. But I mean, they were just winning on the edge. You know what I mean? If you're the problem when you get up the field with speed rushers and against a running quarterback is when you don't win, right? When the tackle can just kind of ride you by. But I mean, Crosby was on his game tonight. I mean, his get off was probably the best I've ever seen him since he started. And he was able to get around the edge on Villanueva. I mean, I don't know what was going on with Villanueva tonight, but yeah, he was off of his game. And I mean, Yannick was taking it to Ronnie Stanley too. And I mean, before Ronnie Stanley had broken his ankle last year, he was a top 5, considered offensive tackle. And he,
for sure,
again, I don't know if he just couldn't get back there or what, but yeah, they were just winning around the edge. And then I think towards the end of the game, you saw Crosby start to, turn some speed to power and win on the inside when Villanueva had to fly back out. So, I mean, for Crosby, that was probably his best game as a Raider, honestly. It was, I mean, he ended up with 2 sacks. I got the stats up here. He's
ever.
2 sacks, 2 toss TFLs. Yeah. 6 tackles.
Even some of the rushes that he wasn't getting sacks on or getting stats on.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot the pressure, just the constant pressure, the constant hitting Lamar Jackson, that is that's the biggest difference maker in this game. And then also me and Marcus, we've been critical about Maxx Crosby because we haven't seen, and we found out why this offseason when you can't, he came to terms with maybe some substance abuse issues that he was going through. But like from his rookie year to his second year, we're just like seeing the same exact player. Like there was no development, there was no pass rush. Now we're seeing like early on in the game, we're seeing different moves than we've ever seen from Maxx Crosby. Like he's elevated his game 100%. And now he did not, Raiders fans have been talking about him like he's elite. Okay, I think this game showed he could be in that conversation at least. Maxx Crosby, a hell of a game on defense. And
I mean, to your point, what
they
were talking about too with like Gruden, like seeing his car in the office, like it speaks to the work that Maxx Crosby's put in. Like he's talking about, putting the time in, not only on the weight room and, all that stuff, but also putting it in on the mental side. And like you said, like he was winning with all kinds of moves and winning on the inside and on the outside. And he was you could not stop him tonight.
Yeah, it's great pass rush. And really a lot of these guys, Phylon was getting into the backfield. Solomon Thomas punched the ball out. Carl Nassib punched the ball out. These guys were coming in waves. You keep on saying that, right? We want our pass rush to come in waves, and it showed up tonight.
They blitzed like once.
Yeah, right. They blitzed once, and it got home too. Twice. Well, I'll chart the game. I'll chart the game, and I'll figure out what it was. Okay, so let's talk about opposite side of the ball. How did Alex Leatherwood look? I have a tough time trying to train my eyes on the offensive line. I was not watching him tonight. If one of you guys were watching him, can you talk to me about how he looked?
You can go.
Go ahead. It was up and down. That's what I would say for Leatherwood. I would say it was up and down. I think, at some points you could see the talent that he has, and they were able to hold on the outside. But I still think they had a lot of bad communication with the blitzes. I think the line was just all over the place when it came to that. So you could see him missing blocks because I feel like they're thinking too much. And I feel like once those blitzes were coming at him, they were trying to figure out where everything was coming from. And, and even a couple of times Derek Carr was wrong, like on that one, I think it was like second and 15. Derek Carr ended to be wrong, and that the whole line was confused. So I think it was a little bit of communication, which we saw in the preseason. Right, we saw that in the preseason, them having communication issues. I mean, mostly because Andre James, he's not Rodney Hudson when it comes to seeing blitzes and pointing things out and getting the line ready for those type of looks. So, that's where I saw a lot of struggle from Alex Leatherwood. And we did, in the run game, we didn't really see too much of the run game to actually see where he is good at. So he was kind of thrown to the fire out there. So it'll be interesting to kind of go back and do a little bit of a deep dive with what he was doing. But maybe Matt, you saw a little bit more from me.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pretty much just piggyback off what you said. I thought in the first half, I saw him have a couple impressive run blocks where he's creating some rushing lanes. Then the second half, the kind of play that stuck out in my mind. I'm not 100% sure if he was working on a combo block or what on the edge, but Udafe Owe had that like bad tackle for loss that looked like he beat him like pretty much right off the snap. And then the other one that sticks in my mind was him just stopping his feet against Justin Houston, which of all the guys on that field to stop your feet against, like that's the last guy you want to do it against. And like you said, I thought there was like too many downs. Like you had the false start mental error. He had a holding later on too. It's like you can't have those penalties. And to piggyback off what you were saying, a lot of the mental errors, like that's something we saw in the preseason. And the thing I think you could chalk it up to too is like it's guys, especially with Incognito out. You're talking about not having the Rodney Hudson to call out the protections and whatnot. Well, I would think the next guy is going to be Incognito since he's been around forever. And Good's a veteran, but he's not like Good's like been a backup for half his career. He's not like the guy, you know what I mean, to steer the ship. So I think we saw 4 new offensive linemen that don't have a whole lot of time playing with each other, or 5 new.
Yeah,
if you're going to include.
We really saw a lot of bad play from Andre James. To be honest, we saw everything that we have been talking about for Andre James for the longest, which is play strength. I just don't think he's strong enough to be a run blocking center. I don't think he's strong enough to make
Marcus,
it happen.
real quick. Who in the NFL count how many defensive tackles, nose guards, are as strong or stronger than Brandon Williams?
Yeah, you got a point, bro. You got a point there. Okay?
Like that's gonna be probably the toughest guy to move that he might go up against.
Cam Hayward's coming up next week, bro. It ain't gonna get easier, you know.
But what does Cam Hayward play? He plays a 2i.
Yeah,
he plays a 3. Bro, you know, like he's gonna be.
Dog, come on.
He's not a zero technique right over Andre James.
BD, it's on tape. What do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna set up one-on-ones against Andre James with Cam Hayward. I mean, that's just how it is, and he just doesn't have that play strength. I mean, that the 4th and 1 play was the perfect example. I mean, if he even makes a halfway decent block, Josh Jacobs makes that, but he's getting burned and he's getting tossed around because he doesn't have the play strength. And you saw it in preseason too, man. He was getting tossed around by backup defensive tackles. Yeah. So. I mean, in pass pro, I mean, he really didn't have that many issues besides the bad snaps and a couple of those. But in pass
pro, yeah, man. Like one thing I will say, and people, you know, Derek Carr didn't have like an incredible game. He definitely has throws that he wants to get back. There's probably some miscues with the wide receivers. It looked shaky. It looked like a player who hasn't played a live game in like 6, 7, 8 months or whatever, right?
It's like a guy who could have used a preseason snap.
Yeah, some preseason snaps, right?
Sure.
But the one thing that I was the most impressed with Derek Carr was like they had a fierce rush, they were blitzing a lot, and he was stepping up in the pocket early and often, you know, keeping his eyes downfield and delivering strikes. Sometimes, you know, the accuracy wasn't there, but at least he was stepping up in the pocket. And I don't think that he's probably going to get a lot of credit from like social media and everything about that, but that's impressive. And that's partly on Andre James too, holding his own, at least in pass protection. Right.
Yeah. And that's what we saw from him in the preseason too. So, but I mean, the run game is what they want to do. But I mean, if they're going to pass the ball 60 times, I'm not going to be mad. You guys already know how I feel about that. You know, but you know, you guys already know what I've been pushing for. We saw it, and it's 34 points in a win. But that's all I'm going to say. And you know, 400 yards from Derek Carr. So,
I mean, 34 points with overtime. Like,
I mean,
let's factor that in
with overtime in there. Yeah, throw an extra 8 minutes in there. If you're just joining us right now, we're going live after the Raiders win, opening day win, Monday night win at Allegiant Stadium. First time with fans. I'm here with Marcus Johnson and Matt Holder. Next thing we want to talk about, I think that we could talk about Darren Waller. He had an amazing game. It started off shaky, like we were talking about. It was an interesting game plan. They were trying to run him down the seam against a coverage where they like to sink under the seam. They like to, you know, defend the deep ball first. And we touched a little bit upon on it a little earlier in the show. But if we're just talking about a pure like volume, the amount of plays, the amount of targets, like what did he have? 20 targets in this game?
19, I think 19.
19 targets in this game. A lot of people, I've seen people get upset. Like, when is Ruggs going to step up? When is Edwards going to step up? Like, the Raiders have a number one wide receiver. They have a legit premier pass catcher in the NFL, Darren Waller, a guy who can get 20 targets in a game, go for 100 and a touchdown. You know, that he's the main vein of the passing game right now. And he proved that against a really tough team. He was getting a lot of exotic looks. Okay. They were dropping guys underneath him. They were hanging the safety on top of him. They were doing a lot of things to take him away. And him and Derek Carr through the course of the game were able to figure out what they needed to do. The play calling got a little better, and Darren Waller helped, you know, like he was basically the biggest yard getter in this offense.
Yeah. You know, the Ravens, they do struggle with tight ends, you know, and it's a thing. I mean, they gave it 82 receptions last year, and now they're about at 11. So, you know, already. Well, I think when you finished with 10 or 11, I think it was 10.
10 for 105 and a touchdown.
Yep, 10 for 105 and a touchdown. So they've already given up 10 to another tight end. So, I mean, that's something the Ravens struggle with. And that's why I like the game plan. I just didn't like where they attacked them at. And I think they should have stayed short early on instead of trying to, you know, go deep like they did when they started off the game. So I think, you know, Bryan Edwards stepped up though. I kind of want to talk about that
late in the game. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, they weren't getting targets early on. And then once they start getting targets, they start moving the football through the air, targeting these guys. So, you know, Darren Waller, he's going to bring those coverages over. He's going to be in them brackets. I think seeing Brian Edwards step up like that, and even seeing Henry Ruggs step up like that, I think that was kind of the bigger story to me, because they needed those guys in those situations, especially late in the game, and they made plays. So,
Matt, do you have anything to add to that before I jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I was just curious. Like, I don't know. I know, Marcus, you said you were watching like the Manning broadcast or whatnot. I'm not sure if they were showing it more. Do you think it was more like the first half? Like, were the guys just not getting open, the receivers not getting open, or was it they weren't getting the targets because they were trying to force feed Waller the whole game? Or at least
I think a lot of it on a couple plays, like Carr was trying to look at other players, and then he ended up just going back to Waller, which obviously shows that he's getting
obvious,
right?
Yeah,
right. Which because like the play where he ended up checking down where he missed Waller going deep. I mean, they showed that he kind of just stuck on Ruggs too long, right? Yeah. And the problem is that these guys aren't separated. So I mean, that's what Manning and Peyton and Eli were talking about. Where it's time for these guys to help out. But go ahead.
And I was just gonna say that's like kind of the concerning part for me is like. It's like, yes, I am glad that Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs ended up stepping up and making a couple huge plays late, but it's like you cannot wait till the fourth quarter for someone other than Brian Edwards or Hunter Renfrow to make a play. And like, you know what I mean? Like that, that's not a winning formula. And granted, like it was like it is a good secondary, but like, I mean, once Hunter Renfrow started making plays more than Humphrey was on him, like you guys were talking about, they're bracketing Darren Waller. Somebody else has got to be getting open. And I mean, eventually that worked out. So that's what I'm kind of curious if it's like, okay, is it Derek Carr not trusting these young receivers yet? Or is it more like the fact that, or is it just like they're just not getting open? And that's what I think, got to see the all 22.
I think it's a little bit of how they're using them too. Because a lot of what we saw late with Brian Edwards was dig routes, right? We saw a lot of him over the middle with some dig routes. And I think he's pretty good.
And a lot of guys
there.
like that too. Yeah. Waller and Ruggs, the same thing too.
Exactly. So you saw a lot of dig routes from Edwards, and he's a big body. So, AJ Brown, he eats on dig routes. He's not really I'm going to win outside and beat you deep all the time. I mean, he could beat some players outside, but, consistently he wins on dig routes, beating guys inside and being physical. And I think once they started using Brian Edwards like that, you saw them to move the football a little bit better, especially late in the game. But, this is a Darren Waller offense. I mean, they're going to try to get the ball to Darren Waller as much as possible. Obviously, I mean, he's probably going to get like a lot of targets, especially if they pass this much. But it was an interesting game plan from the jump, but it ended up working out in the end.
I'll just say this about the young wide receivers. Waller, he's a premier pass catcher in the NFL. We know what we get with Waller. Renfrow, he's kind of like carved out his niche. He's obviously, everyone says he's a slot guy. Really, what he is, he's an underneath guy. He's a guy who can, get some double moves. He's super shifty, super quick. He can beat some man coverage looks as long as it's not up against a super physical DB, right? Mm-hmm. But on the outside, what's happening on the outside? And really, all Edwards needs to be, he just needs to be a possession player. He just needs to be a chain mover on the outside, a guy who can, get some contested catches. Like, he never was in it like the sickest route runner in college. Like, you didn't see him just like giving rocker steps and just like blowing past guys. He won contested catches, and that's like the type of player that he is. He showed that he could do that a little bit. That's what he needs to do. And then Henry Ruggs just needs to be that guy that the defense needs to honor. The deep threat or whatever, like that last play where they didn't have safety help in the middle of the field and he just ran away. It just turned into a race with the nickel and he just beat the nickel across the field. It wasn't like a great route. It was just, you're not catching Henry Ruggs across the field if you're playing nickel with outside leverage, right? But that's what those players need to be. The Raiders already have a premier pass catcher. These guys don't need to go for 1,000 yards or anything like that. They can just be like a cool, like 500, 600 yards, but winning in their niches. And then I think this offense will be fine, but obviously the run game has to improve at some point. We'll see. We're going to move on here. I want to talk about how the defense looked good. We saw some improvement across the board. We saw defense get a pass rush, which is something that Raiders fans know the defense has been lacking for a while. We saw them get some turnovers, some key turnovers at key moments. And that's something huge because it was always in the last 3 years, Paul Guenther, it was like when the Raiders needed a turnover, it never came, right? And so we saw twice this happened for the Raiders. But the one problem area, and you could say, I'm nitpicking, you could say it's not really a problem area because this is Lamar Jackson after all. But one of the keys to the game was just getting this guy on the ground, and I think that there was a lot of instances. Corey Littleton whiffed a few times. KJ Wright missed some tackles. Jonathan Abram missed some tackles where it was like these guys are getting put on skates a little bit out here. They're missing tackles. And I think if that got shored up earlier in the game, Raiders kind of handily win this one, and it doesn't need to go to overtime. But I'm curious, maybe your thoughts on this, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were kind of talking about it at the beginning or before we started recording. It kind of had like a 2016 defense type of feel, right? Where it was like not the shutdown defense that you're hoping for, and that makes it a nice, cool, calm game, but one that's going to get the big turnovers late. Like we talk about tackling Lamar Jackson. Sure, they had their miscues and whatnot, but they got him to fumble 3 times tonight. Was that right? Strip sack and then two when he was scrambling around.
Yeah. 3 fumbles, 2 recovered. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 recovers, and then ended up and the last one ended up being a big one. But yeah, I mean, like you said, tackling, and I felt like especially early on the Ravens could kind of have their way when they were running up the middle, like like Tyus Williams on that 4th and 1 just kind of went straight through them right down the field for another 35-yard touchdown. But
Tyson Williams. Was that Tyson Williams?
Tyson Williams.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, there's new faces in this linebacker room, and some of the run fits they might be different from what a linebacker was playing before, whatever it is, and so he's expecting, he's gonna keep his outside arm and leg free when maybe he should be spilling it or something like that. We'll go through the tape and we'll figure it out in these coming days here, who exactly was wrong in these situations. But yeah, like at the end of the day, you just got to get these guys on the ground. You can't give chunk plays. And while the defense did show some improvements, there was enough question marks there. I know this is probably the hardest team to tackle, in football, or at least one of them. But there's enough cause for concern there. Hopefully that those things get shored up. Last thing, I think we talked about this a little bit, but before we get out of here, overtime, it was a thrilling finish. Never seen a team congratulate each other. Everyone has their helmets off. They're taking their stuff off. And all of a sudden they say, you have to get back out there. Like, walk us through the emotions, maybe, Matt. Like, what the hell is going on here?
I was getting like, what was it? 2001, 2002, like Tostitos Fiesta Bowl vibes with Miami when they thought they won on the right. Bowl or whatever. I was sitting there, I'm like, oh no, this is happening all over again. I legitimately went through my head, especially when they had that interception at the end. Like, it just felt like, I don't know, being a Raider fan the last 20 years, when Brian Edwards has that play, doesn't quite score, they get to the 1, they can't punch it in on the QB sneak. And then they have a ball that's like too hot, and then they jump off sides, right? Leatherwood jumps off sides, and it's like, oh no. Like, I was sitting here, I'm like, I've seen this movie before. Yes. I know how this ends. And then, like we were just talking about, timely turnovers, which again, huge part of what the 2016 defense was able to do. They can do that. They can give up 189 yards on the ground. I'm kidding, but we'll take it right now. I mean,
we'll take it. We'll take it.
I should choose my words wisely, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like that's exactly like the whole gamut of like that whole just end of the sequence with them like tying it up and the whole back and forth 4th quarter. Like I said, 2016 vibes all the way around. Derek Carr up and down, like just like it was in his MVP candidate year. But yeah. What about you, Marcus? How are you? You had to take a few minutes before we could even record to settle down for a minute.
Yeah, it was a lot of emotions for me, man. It was a lot of emotions for me. For the fans, you guys don't know, I'm an analyst, like, Monday through Saturday, but the game starts, man, I'm just like you guys, I'm crazy. So
well, Mr. Analyst, you're the only one who picked the Ravens over at Silver and Black Pride. Let's not forget about that. I don't know how we've bringing that up.
Pick the Raiders.
Just saying.
It was reverse psychology. It was reverse psychology. Reverse psychology. But
you got to rib him. You got to get him for that. Yeah. I mean, look, it was a toss-up. It could have gone either way. Obviously, we saw at the end, like, literally, who was going to win this game, and there was a lot of mistakes. It was pretty crazy. I agree that there's a lot of emotions. What I will just jump in here and say, to Matt's point, we know how this movie was going to end. They jump off sides. They go backwards. They interception. Like, okay, years passed. It's over. You don't win that game, but the Raiders figured out a way to win, even though those things were happening. I think that's at least it's a baby step. You know, we can't get ahead of ourselves. There's 16 more games to play, right? 17 more weeks of football action to happen, but it's a baby step. We've seen the Raiders lose in unspeakable, unfathomable ways in the past. And they didn't do that this time, even though they were, you know, making some costly errors, some rookie that, you know, Leatherwood jumped off sides. And then Derek Carr has the ball coming or has the, you know, blitzer right in his face. So he's got to rifle that ball out of there. And it just goes through Willie Snead's hands. That was clearly a play designed exactly for Willie Snead. So I don't know why the ball got on him with, you know, quick.
Smash return,
it was weird.
It was a smash return.
It was a smash return out of a 4x1. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, I'd never seen that one before.
But I don't know why put Willie Snead in that situation.
That's what I was saying. Like the guy was like, did he play before that drive?
I don't think so.
I didn't see him in the entire game. No, I didn't see him.
And it almost felt like because Carr, like you're talking about, like he was facing some rush and had to like get it out quick, but like Carr threw that like he did not think he was throwing that to Willie Snead. Like he put that and hit Willie Snead in the hands, but he put it high and up. And like if you missed a Snead,
like he was throwing to Foster Moreau or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. Dude, like you can't throw it that high to a guy that's what, like not even 6 feet.
Yeah, he should have if he put some touch on that pass, the game's over.
Yeah,
game's over. Yeah. Game's over. Yeah,
and yes, you're in the NFL, bro. Catch that.
Yeah, ball. No, it was definitely
He threw it too hard.
Catch that
he threw
ball.
It too hard. Plus, but you're in the NFL.
Catch
people throw that hard, bro.
You're in the NFL. You're in the NFL, and you're what, like a multi-year, double-digit year vet. Yeah, you got to catch that ball. You got to catch that ball for sure. But yeah. But again, why is he in the game?
Yeah,
and why are we designing that to him in the crucial situation?
There was a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of interesting things
right before
happening.
The field goal, right before the touchdown.
God.
Oh my god,
that was the other part where I was like, oh, they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose. I've seen that. That was the other moment. I'm like, you know what?
Thank God that happened. I was kind of mad they're about to kick a field goal on 2nd and 9.
Yeah, I was like, second down. What are we doing here?
This is like a 45-yard field goal. This is not a chip shot.
Right. And the reason why you do that, right, is so like if you fumble the snap, you can just go down and you get a chance to kick it. But when it's a 44-yarder, if that happens, now it's like a 51-yarder.
Right.
It was
like just run a couple plays. Like, what are you doing?
That's my whole problem with Gruden is situational football, because that is all situational. Like, bro, play the third down. If you want to play for the field goal, run the ball. I don't know, man.
Just run the ball. Run the ball.
You can't kick on 2nd and 9 from the 28.
So weird. It's not like there was 2 seconds left in the game. There was a full 3 minutes left in the game. Yeah, a lot of weird things happening.
Anyways, bro, they won though. They won.
Yeah, Raiders won. Last thoughts. Anyone? Let's sign. Before we sign off here, anything you guys want to say?
My last thoughts is, we kind of saw that, if the defense gives Carr a chance, the best thing he is clutch. That's basically, he's a different quarterback when they need to get some points. And I think if you can build on that and you can keep them in the game, you always have a chance if you can get him the ball late, which is, weird to say with his record, but it's true though. We saw it tonight.
Right. It's facts. How many game-winning drives,
22 now. That's 22.
22 game-winning drives since whatever, if you believe in all that, anything else, Matt?
I don't know. I became a big game-winning drive guy over the summer, but go ahead, Matt.
No, I talked about it already, but yeah, I can't stress enough. Maxx Crosby can't. With the story too, like coming out recently about like his sobriety and like his personal struggles and getting that right. And like I was talking about too, like with him, getting everything right and mentally and, to putting in the work in the film room and whatnot and seeing him blossom today. That was just awesome to watch, to see a guy go from a 4th round pick to one of the best players on the field on either side with the reigning MVP on the other side of the field. Like that was an awesome moment. I thought for me, awesome moment for Raider fans too. So
yeah, for sure.
Last thought, game ball. One of the game balls goes to AJ Cole. Okay. Yeah. When the offense was struggling, he was making the Ravens really move the entire length of the field. If you know me, if you watch my stuff, I'm a big special teams guy. So I got to give some special teamers love. This one was easy. AJ Cole kicking the crap out of the ball, sometimes out kicking the coverage. You know, we hear that, you know, used in different contexts a lot, but literally, like, he was kicking I'm surprised that ball had any air in it after as hard as he was kicking it. But AJ Cole saved the offense in the first, because if it was just regular punts, okay, if it was just, you know, your 40-yard punt variety, okay, the game might have been over early. So credit to AJ Cole. All right, that's it, guys. Go ahead, man. Yeah.
I was going to say, Raider fans that have watched football in the last 20 years know when Shane Lechler was the best defender, how valuable a great punter can be. So.
Yes. a punter is very valuable, yes.
And one last thing I want to say, I mean, if Maxx keeps playing that, people are going to be like, so how do teams pass on Maxx? So, I mean, Farrell being a healthy scratch and Maxx picks up for it, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Does it matter? Does it matter? You got one. You got one right.
I mean,
yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
You know, you're 4 rounds too late.
All right. We're gonna save the Cleveland Farrell talk, maybe its own dedicated episode. But we appreciate Raider Nation for tuning in. If you're watching this live, we appreciate you for tuning in here. I'm gonna give some shout outs right here in the chat. Shout out to Francisco Pancho. We appreciate you, brother. All right. Shout out to my guy. Where's he at? Let me find you. Just another DJ. We appreciate you, bro. And shout out to C. Robles. Okay, we got a lot of support in the chat, so we appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in, Raider Nation. This is the Tape Don't Lie podcast. Marcus Johnson is my co-host at the Mark John NFL. We are joined by Matt Holder at M95 on Twitter. You can also follow me at BD Williams 18 on Twitter. That's it. We out. Later.
Yeah.